Good morning everyone. Today we're going to be looking at all the new skills that we are getting in the Kavaris region because they just released it on their website at the time of this recording. So yeah, TLDR, Braver is super OP. Braver got the most love. However, don't worry, we'll go over every single class. But before I jump into all of that, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily. So if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. So I will leave this link in the description below in case you want to read it for yourself. But as you can see here, new skills for all classes, and it breaks down every single class as well as all of their new skills. So you can see Hunter is getting 4 new skills. So the first skill is Hunter Physique Short Cycle, reduces the effective duration of Hunter's physique, but also shortens the cooldown. So Hunter is getting the Braver treatment over here with the Short Cycle skill, allowing you to activate Hunter's physique more often. However, the duration of the actual buff is going to be shorter. I think this is a good thing because more choice is always better. Next up is Sword Art Overcharge. Charging a photon art for a set amount of time increases its potency. However, this only applies to swords, so just keep that in mind. As for partisans, we are getting Partisan Attack Extra, which allows us to string 4 normal attacks instead of 3. Then for Wired Lances, we are getting Wired Anchor Strike Back. When you successfully neutralize an attack using a weapon action, Hunter Art's Avengers will be applied to your next photon art that you use, so you will deal additional damage. So overall, Hunter is okay. I think this is the middle of the pack, nothing too crazy strong, nothing too crazy weak. It's okay. Next up for our fighter friends, we are getting Overload Short Cycle, exactly the same thing as the other one that I just talked about, the Short Cycle. You get shorter duration, however the cooldown is also going to be shorter, so again, more options are good. You're getting Saber Extra Attack, allowing you to attack 4 times, same thing there. However, this is different. Dagger hit count up PP gain, recovers PP each time you hit a certain number of times with a photon art or photon blast. However, this only applies to twin daggers. Still seems really cool. The next skill for fighter is also pretty neat. It's Knuckle Arts Combo Bonus. Further improves the decreased PP consumption rate of Knuckle Arts Combo PP save when you unleash the first half of a photon art. So basically, less cost for PP, which means you can spam more photon arts. Pretty cool stuff. Fighter seems to get okay buffs again, seems to be the middle of the pack, nothing too amazing, nothing out of the box, but it's okay. Next up is Ranger. Now Ranger actually got some pretty nice changes. The first skill is Spread Shot Auto Charge. Your Spread Shot gauge automatically fills. This is nice, I guess. It's not a big deal in my personal opinion. Then the next skill is Rifle Grenadier Quick Reload, which when you successfully dodge with a weapon action reduces the cooldown time for Rifle Grenadier, can be only used with assault rifles. This is pretty cool. It allows you to be a little bit more active in your playstyle, which is nice since the Ranger playstyle is a little bit dull at the moment. However, this is the big one right here. Wide Range Blight Rounds. Active skills fires rounds that increase damage dealt to any part hit in a wide area of effect. This skill draws from the same number of uses and cooldown time as ordinary Blight rounds. So this skill is amazing because you're literally applying blight rounds but in AoE fashion, which allows you to mark multiple parts and gain that extra 25% DPS increase on multiple parts, which is freaking amazing. And the last skill they're getting is Launcher Attack Short Charge, reduces the potency of charged normal attacks, but they charge faster. So this is more of a quality of life thing depending on your personal play styles. So if you like the shorter charge but less damage, you can choose to put a point in here. But if you prefer the longer charge but more damage, then you don't need to put a point here. Overall, Ranger's buffs are pretty good, mainly because of the Wide Range Blight Round. However, everything else is just kind of quality of life changes. Gunner is also considered one of the bigger changes as well, because the first one we got is Chain Trigger Count Retained. So as Nompon was informing me in the podcast, if you guys haven't watched that, I would recommend checking out the podcast that I had with Nompon. But when you're doing specific content such as the Geometric Labyrinth, there's a lot of downtime, and during that downtime, all the gunners would always lose their chain trigger. So what Chain Trigger Count Retained does is when a chain trigger ends without a chain finisher boost, the chain number of the next chain trigger you use will start at a higher number based on the previous chain number. So basically this allows you to retain some of that chain so you don't lose it totally and just screw up your entire attack speed boost. So this is really nice. Next one's actually quite a big deal as well, as Stylish Roll Counter Bullet. A successful dodge with weapon action simultaneously unleashes a counterattack. This is really big because stylish roll is basically spammable. You can spam this all day. So if you are the type of player who is not comfortable with, countering and stuff, you can literally just button mash your stylish roll, and 90% of the time you will actually dodge and do the weapon action and actually deal additional damage now with counter bullet. So that's pretty cool. Gunner is a mid-range class and very combo focused. However, you can deal a ton of damage, and now with this extra counter bullet, now you can deal even more damage and have even more uptime, and it's just a good change overall. I really like this. And last but not least, you are getting twin machine gun alternate arts PP preservation. Basically, whenever you use different photon arts together in a chain, they will decrease the PP consumption, so you can chain together a bunch of different photon arts, which is pretty nice. I think Gunner got one of the better changes among all of the other classes, mainly because of the chain trigger count retained as well as the counter bullet. These two are really big and really important for the Gunner, so hopefully all of my Gunner players out there are going to be able to take advantage of this and have a much better time playing their class. Next up, we have to talk about Force. Force gets Photon Flare short cycle, reduces the effect of Photon Flare but shortens the cooldown. We've seen this. We basically get short cycle on like every single class basically, which is nice to see because again it gives us more options. This is good because Photon Flare is very useful, especially for bursting moments. You activate it, you do your huge burst, and then it's down, and then hopefully you wait for it to come up before the enemy gets downed again, so you can do a huge burst once more. So this is nice to see. Now the next one is Fiore Brand. So this is basically when you hit a target multiple times with a specific element, such as the ice element, you would see the ice build up, and then when you did a charged attack, you would deal additional damage. But the fire version apparently didn't have this, so they're finally adding it in. So when you use a fire technique and hit a mob a certain number of times, a seal of flame will be engraved, and when you hit a target with the seal of flame with another fire technique, it explodes and deals additional damage. But on top of that, it also restores PP. That's really cool. Next up is a really big change as well over here, Raw Technique PP Well Up. You recover PP naturally when activating techniques, however your natural PP recovery speed is reduced. This I think is actually pretty nice because I personally am always spamming techniques anyway whenever I play Force, because you have PP eradication, so when you kill mobs you get PP back. So I'm always spamming my techniques. So being able to naturally recover PP while I am activating techniques is a huge deal, since I don't care about natural PP recovery that much, since I'm always attacking and I'm not really just standing still doing nothing. So I am more than happy to take this sacrifice. Next up is Talus Bloom after PP gain. So this only applies to Talus and for main class, but basically you recover PP based on the number of times a technique was used while it was deployed. So that is pretty cool, I guess. So for those who don't know what the Talus deployment is, I think this is the weapon action where you summon the little turret thing. So yeah, I guess that's pretty cool, I suppose. I don't know, not a big deal for me, but extra PP recovery is always welcomed. And last but not least, forces are also getting the Tricky Capacitor Gauge Amplifier. When your Talus is deployed due to a photon art, the level of Tricky Capacitor Gauge increases when you attack an enemy's elemental weak point with a technique. So basically just more damage when you attack the enemy's weak points with techniques when you are using a Talus. Remember, this only applies to Talus and not for rods. Overall, I think Forces got a mediocre change, having the Fiore Brand as well as having the Rod Technique PP Well Up. These are welcome changes, very nice, but overall I think they're okay. Techter actually has a lot of overlapping skills compared to the Force. You know, you've got the Fiore Brand as well as the Talus Bloom and the Tricky Capacitor. These are basically the same thing, not a big deal here. However, they also got Wand Attack Extra, which allows you to string up to 4 attacks. That's actually pretty good, as well as Wand Art Skip Attack. After using the same PA successively, your normal attack charges to its 3rd step. So this is very similar to like the Fighter skill or the Hunter skill, where you have the Skip Arts. But again, this only applies to wands, and everything else is kind of the same. But now for the main attraction, and that is of course the Bravers, because they just got ridiculous buffs across the board. I personally am very happy as a Braver main. However, let's go over the changes first. So first thing is Brave Combat Cross Spirit. Whenever you trigger Brave Combat, Brave Spirit also becomes active. So for those who don't know what Brave Spirit does, is it actually increases your PP recovery when attacking, as well as your potency for normal attacks and counters. So you basically more damage across the board, as well as faster PP regeneration when you're attacking. And having this activate while in Brave combat is a huge deal, basically a huge DPS buff across the board. Very happy to see this. Next up is Katana PA combo finish. So after using the third step of a Katana photon art, your normal attack charges into a powerful strike. So as we know, katanas work in charges. You have level 1, 2, and 3, and after the third charge, it resets back to level 1 again. However, now we get an additional burst of damage because after the third charge or the third step, you use a auto attack and you deal a very powerful strike, which is really cool. But it doesn't end there. We are getting Katana Guard Counter Plus. When you perform a Katana Guard Counter, performing a normal attack unleashes an additional counter. This is broken. This is really crazy. Because remember, with Brave Spirit, we are getting increased damage with our normal attacks as well as our counters. And now we're getting Katana Guard Counter Plus, which means, first of all, you're getting the increased damage from just doing a regular counter. But on top of that, you're also getting the increased damage from the normal attack because you have Brave Spirit and Brave Combat and all of this stacking on top of each other, which is super cool. So if you really wanted to min-max your damage, you do like 3 charges of Lotus Lightning into a normal attack, into a counter, into another normal attack, while Brave Combat and Brave Spirit is active at the same time. And that's just insane amounts of burst, which is really cool, and I'm very happy to see this. However, Bravers are definitely the most loved class in this update so far, because all of these changes are freaking amazing for Katana Bravers. However, don't worry, Bow Bravers, there are some changes here for you, and that is of course the Bow Alternate Arts PP Preservation. Decreases your PP consumption when you chain together different photon arts. This is going to be very useful because I know a lot of Bow Bravers do need to switch around different photon arts, so being able to cast more is always a good thing. And last but not least, we are getting Slow Landing Photon Bow. So it's just like the Force, when you are casting a normal attack or a photon art, you will slowly float down to the ground instead of just dropping like a rock. So yeah, you could basically say Katana's got the most love over here. Unfortunately, bows didn't get much. You know, these two changes are kind of like, you know, I give this like a B tier or C plus tier, while these Katana changes are like an A tier. So yeah, Bravers got the most love out of this patch, 110%. However, it is mainly Katana Bravers which got all the love. Bow Bravers, not so much. And last but not least, we cannot forget of our bouncer players out there as well. So you got Fiore Brand, so we covered this already, so I'm not going to cover that again. But we got Photon Blade Protect, negates enemy attacks when you use a weapon action. This can only be used with soaring blades. This is really nice. This will be very good for parrying and stuff like that. Actually, speaking about parries, we got Blade Arts Parry Counter Edge, unleashes a counter when you successfully negate an attack with Blade Arts Parry. So basically, this is making the soaring blades just like a Braver now, which is really nice, or like a Hunter where you do the perfect parries and you do a counter attack, and this does quite a significant amount of damage. So this is really nice. I can see more people gravitating towards soaring blades because now you have an actual parry, which was much needed for this weapon type and this class. I felt very weird when I was playing Bouncer soaring blades without the parry and without the counter. It just didn't feel very good, so I'm glad that they're finally adding this in. Now for my Jet Boot players, we are getting Thrust Drive Skip Attack. After using Thrust Drive, your normal attack charges into its 4th step. This is actually a huge deal. You can deal a lot more damage now because of this, so that's really nice. And we are getting Jet Sweep Jolt Short Cooldown. When you successfully dodge with a weapon action, the cooldown time for Jet Sweep Jolt is reduced. This is really good because Jet Sweep Jolt is you know, quite a big deal. It's a big source of your damage, so being able to play super hyper aggressive and be rewarded by constantly dodging enemy attacks, this is super duper nice. So in conclusion, I feel like every class got a buff overall. However, it's pretty clear that they are focusing on what classes the majority of players are actually playing, and it seems like Braver is one of the more popular classes, if not the most popular class. I think Braver and Force are probably on equal footing in my personal opinion. That's just a hunch from my side. I don't actually have any numbers, but from the balancing, you can definitely see that they have given a lot of emphasis on Katana Braver and really buffed that class and that weapon type specifically. But I would like to see more buffs for all the classes and no nerfs. because I don't think that NGS or PSO2 in general should be a game built around so-called balance. I think that everyone should be just buffed and everyone should just be super strong and feel super good to play, because it is a PvE game. You're fighting monsters, you're working together, so if everyone is strong, that is a win-win situation in my books. So yeah, I would like to see more buffs on all the other classes. I think katanas are in a pretty good spot right now. However, you know me, I main Braver, so I am very biased towards the Braver class, so I wouldn't complain if there's even more buffs, but I do acknowledge that Bravers definitely got the better end of the stick in this patch.
Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again.
But anyway, that's all I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye!
What can I say except you're welcome?